Hello. Now we're going to talk about something that is already discussed in the internet, and it is really comparing Ukraine and Taiwan. And from the perspective of, for me, Sun Tzu, I use that Ukraine-Taiwan configuration of the ground as a case study to illustrate the thinking of Sun Tzu and the application of Sun Tzu thinking to concrete case study. Now, firstly, right, you must know that Sun Tzu always emphasized in art of war that the general must know the ground very well. And having understood the ground, then to formulate a strategy on the basis of the analysis of the ground. So it is very interesting that the discussions have been in the public that, talk about Ukraine and Taiwan, and what Taiwan can learn from Ukraine and so on and so on. So far, nobody has taken the perspective that I'm taking, and that is from the view of Sun Tzu. Now, you must realize that Sun Tzu emphasizes, very importantly, different grades of strategy or strategies. And for the highest level of attainment as a strategist, Sun Tzu used the word Sun Tzu Sanzi, or strategist par excellence. That means the topmost strategic thinker and implementer. Now, what I've done, as usual, I put the slide up, and you can see it, and it is to your right, and you'll find that I put up there the passage from which this is taken, chapter 3, scroll 3, and the emphasis really is for your top strategist. You would think from a all-round perspective, or I put in Chinese, 全面胜利为结果. That means at the end, after winning, right? The win is such that it is complete all around. It's not just a very narrow perspective. And Sun Tzu deplore, for example, that you scale city walls and win a victory. Even if you won the victory, you are low-grade strategists. Nothing great at all. And therefore Sun Tzu says that, you have the highest grade is the strategist 不战. And the word 战字 is war, right? In ancient context, we're using weapon. You study the word 战, the 战字, really not to use weapon at all to fight. And in a modern world, that is very relevant. Why? Because the weapon now is nuclear warfare. The problem with Ukraine and Taiwan is it illustrates so clearly Ukraine, especially Ukraine, is that beyond a certain tipping point, the world may be engulfed in a nuclear warfare. Therefore, the world has to be concerned about this, Ukraine as well as Taiwan, for the simple reason that we want peace. And Sun Tzu says that the top strategist is someone who is able to win without having to go to war, without using weaponry. And not only that, but 有启人之兵. The word 启, of course, is very hard to explain, but simple way of translating would be gaining, and yet gain the enemy's troops, and Ukraine illustrate that, and Taiwan illustrate that too. Right, now you find that I will move now, and I shown both maps, a simple map of Ukraine and a simple map of Taiwan Island. And I put up there on the slide, and if you look at Ukraine, the entire Ukraine map, you will find that it is a landmass. There's coastline, yes, but it is not very long. Overall, you look at Ukraine overall, right? There's that stretch below. And then the most interesting thing really is that Kiev, if that is the center of Ukraine and command and control, that if I will, to think like what Sun Tzu would probably have done, would be to focus on seizing Kiev, then radiate out from there, having got Kiev as the hub, as a center point. But then, right, the Russians have captured Mariupol from the coast upwards, and that is, for what they have succeeded is amazing. That they reveal that there is in fact neo-Nazism. There's a lab, and there is the steel plant there. Okay, now let's move on quickly. Now I don't want this to be too long. This clip to be short and precise. Taiwan. Now Taiwan is far more interesting because it is an island. It is an island that is surrounded by sea, and it is small relative to China, which has got 1.5 billion versus 24 million. What could have been done? My proposal would be, or Sun Tzu probably analyzing the ground would probably say, look, there's no need to really use weaponry. Put aside aside, it's possible. This for Taiwan, it is possible for China or for any country, all right, to apply this strategy. And therefore you find that how naval blockade is one way. Naval blockade the whole island. Then imposing a no-fly zone over the space. And you find that the key idea really to exert military control, sovereignty, that in fact Taiwan is part of China province. Historically has been so there's no argument about that fact. And therefore how to exert control over an island, right? It would probably be the best to be blockade and no-fly zone over the airspace. And of course, the key thing, as you know, right, my emphasis has always been that we must aim for world peace. And if Taiwan lingers on and is always a flashpoint, that has to be resolved. And I would have said that the US, if they've taken a more enlightened look, if Taiwan returns back to China, it has a lot of plus point too for the US eventually. Why? Because it will be a much bigger market, Taiwan combined with China. And I would say, from my personal point of view, right, is that Taiwan is like a child that ought to return to the motherland. And I cannot speak behalf of mainland Chinese, but I would say that the aspirations of 1.5 billion Chinese is to see Taiwan be reintegrated as part of China, and finish up with World War II. World War II ended with lingering problems, and that has to be resolved. Otherwise, you find that we want what we all want is have the world peace and resolve this matter amicably, and settle this once and for all, so there is no risk of a possibility that it may trigger off a nuclear warfare. Thank you.